Dr. Abigail Allwood is a pioneering geologist and research scientist working with NASA. She's also the first woman and the first Australian to lead an investigation on the Mars Rover Mission. Dr. Allwood also happens to be a leading light Macquarie University graduate. Hello, Abby. Welcome back to Macquarie Uni.
Hello, thanks. It's good to be here.
Tell us about the Mars Rover project. What's your role on it and what are you hoping it will discover?
My role in the project for the last couple of years has been to develop and build the Pixel instrument along with a team of several hundred engineers, I should say. Since the landing about 6 months or so ago, my role has changed to being sort of overseeing and managing the overall science teams. We haven't actually used Pixel yet because it's not cleared to, but will be, to manage the use of Pixel and the investigation of the rocks and soils on Mars, and also to a small degree, to get involved in the science directly as much as I can. I hope to, anyway.
That Pixel invention is your very own invention, isn't it?
It is, yes.
And how did it come about? I think it was while you were doing your doctorate here, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just towards the end. In fact, it was just as I was transitioning into my postdoc over here in the United States with JPL. But it was a reaction to some comments, concern about the fact that the evidence that I'd published so far was field scale evidence, sort of metre scale, tens of metres, hundreds of metres scale evidence, and looking for that sort of micro scale evidence, because if you're going to claim microbial scale evidence, if you will. And so it was a case of getting some instrument that would be able to investigate the composition of these rocks and what they're made of, but at that really sub-millimetre scale resolution. Not too small, not too big. And that's what Pixel gave. It sits on the rover on the end of the arm, on what's called a turret, which is like a giant cheese wheel that rotates on the end of the arm, as the arm can be used to put the instrument up against the rocks. So you do that, and we actually put it very close to the rocks. It's 2.5 centimetres, which is actually quite a scary proximity for placing an instrument on a rover, a 1-ton rover, so many billions of miles away from Earth, and hoping it'll stay still all night and get the data in good form.
Did you ever imagine while doing your doctorate here at Macquarie that you would one day be working with NASA?
No, I didn't. I suppose the Australian Centre for Astrobiology that I was part of, that I did my doctorate there at Macquarie, was affiliated with NASA, so I guess it was probably a reasonable expectation that there'd be some. It's funny, I started the PhD with not really a very practical view of as to where it would lead, but given that there are so few jobs in astrobiology in Australia, I guess it was basically shunting me towards the US, whether I liked it or not.
Has it been a challenge getting the data back to base, given that all of this has to be done so remotely?
Yes, that's still to come. So getting the data downlinked to Earth, as we call it. So the downlink process is dependent very hugely on the downlink capacity of the orbiters around Mars. At the moment, it's quite good because there are 3 orbiters around Mars. 3 orbiting missions around Mars we can use. One of them belongs to the European Space Agency. So some collaboration there going on helps us get data down in good order. But it could all get very horrible, very skinny very quickly if any of them fail. So it could change over time.
Do you feel the pressure to have a successful outcome in the project that you're working on at the moment, and what does that success look like to you?
Success doesn't mean to me finding life. It means doing the best possible analysis we can of the geology that we're presented with to modify that famous quote from Forrest Gump: geology is like a box of chocolates, you never know what you're going to get. So whatever it is that geology hands us, whether it's evidence of life or something else, I think being able to do a really rigorous, defensible interpretation of what we're presented with is, and making that the field notes that we bring back to Earth, so that the future sample analysis scientists that look at them can really use them as a very faithful, reliable sort of set of data and observations to back up what they find in the samples. I think that sort of multi-generational view of your science and your contribution as a scientist is that's important.
What did you take away from this university experience that directly helped you get to where you are today?
Something that happened during my PhD, which I look back to very sort of proudly, which was the ability to backflip, not literally, physically, but the ability to realised that I'd gone down a path that was sort of influenced by outside influences in a way that was probably not as open to what I was presented as a geologist. The box of chocolates had different stuff in it. And so I think my advisor was really important in helping me realise that he had been he had been very encouraging to me to investigate things and so forth. But then realising that I'd gone down a slightly different path, he was equally encouraging and saying, whatever you've got to do, that's you've presented a good scientific reason for it, and that's great. That was just that sort of stuff can't be taken for granted, and that was really important.
How does it feel to be the first woman ever to lead a space project of this significance?
Day to day, I've got to say, it doesn't make too much of a difference because I'm working in a fantastic team of people. Almost all of them have done this before, but this is, they've been very helpful, very encouraging, and very accommodating for the fact that I'm actually a geologist rather than an instrument specialist. But on a sort of larger scale, longer term sort of view of things, I can, and probably even more so from watching other women and how their activities have played out. I learn more from observing them. I find it difficult to sort of watch myself and see how I'm treated.
So what advice would you offer to any young person coming through university now?
It's funny when I get asked that. I actually sometimes I often get students over here asking me how they can get to where I am now. And I think, how do you get to be an instrument PI? How do you get to be whatever they think of I am? And I can't really sort of pinpoint each step along the way and say this is what you should do, because everything that allowed me to be where I am is very circumstantial. I think to me the secret of me being happy with where I am now is not just the nature of the job, but it's the being open to opportunities that were suitable to my expertise and what I was interested in, and being ready to leap at them when they arose. I mean, they weren't things that I sort of foresaw and carved out for myself. They were opportunities that I helped create, but I saw the opportunity to make those differences and to leap when they came to fruition. So that's the advice I'd say, is to really sort of be open to possibilities, be ready to know yourself well enough to identify the opportunities that suit you when they come up.
Dr. Allwood, Abby, thank you so very much for all that you're doing. We wish you every success with the Rover project.
Thank you very much. We need it.